I worked just shy of 40 years, but my pension still wasn't going to be enough for us. So when he called out of the blue, offering a free pension review, I was all ears. He spoke professionally about investments. He seemed a really decent guy. Just shy of 40 years, pension. He took all of it.
Seriously popular.
Welcome to Alas, Vine and Hitchens. I am Sarah Vine.
She is, and I am Peter Hitchens.
This week, what were you doing 10 years ago? And why is social media suddenly transfixed by 2016? It's a trend, Peter. We're doing a trend today. It's very exciting.
Oh.
And Peter will be asking why America has turned into the world's bully. Always has been. Anyway, we'll be back after this.
You share your pillow, even though it's your bed. You take them to their favourite cafe on a Saturday. That's what you do when you've got a tellmate. You buy furniture based on how well it matches their fur. You let them sit shotgun even though they can't give directions. Because that's what you do when you've got a tellmate. And yeah, you've got them insured. Because they're not just a pet. They're your tellmate. Many pets, pet insurance. For life with your tellmates. Jointly underwritten by Wacom SA and Score UK Company Limited. Visit manypets.com for terms and conditions.
Welcome back to the Coral Fan Derby. They're all here. First up, the badged blokes. Arms down, badges rested. Well deserved. Football fashionistas next, putting that vintage away shirt back in the wardrobe. Last out, the armchair experts. Remote in hand, ready to sit this one out. They've all called a timeout with Coral's play break tool. Oh, what a decision! From play breaks to deposit limits and more. We're here for safer gambling. Coral, we're here for it.
18 plus, gambleaware.org.
Still dreaming of snow this winter? It's not too late. Sunweb has last-minute ski deals ready to go. Lift Pass included as standard, plus you can add flights, ski hire and lessons to create your perfect package. With unmissable offers across Europe's best resorts, the slopes are waiting. Book your perfect last-minute ski holiday now from just £229 per person, including Lift Pass at sunweb.co.uk.
It's a Sunweb holiday.
Welcome to Alas, Vine and Hitchens. I'm Sarah Vine.
And I am Peter Hitchens.
So let's kick off, shall we, with your topic for discussion,
Yes, the United
which
States.
I think is everybody's topic for discussion
United
today.
States of America.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why everyone's so surprised. And I love America. I lived there for 2 very wonderful years. I had great neighbours and I had a lot of fun. And I would cheerfully have stayed. But I cannot get over the fact that it is a foreign country and they do things differently there and they don't actually love us for being us. In fact, a good friend of mine who worked for the World Bank, he used to go around America, going to various institutions, and I won't say which one this was. He was there once, and they didn't realise there was a British person in the delegation, and one of the senior people went off on one about how terrible the British were, stuck up, entitled.
Drunk.
Well, all kinds of things, but basically speaking to what he believed to be a generally wholly American audience, and he got a very good response for it. It's not there's a lot of fake bonhomie between British and Americans joshing each other about the language and so forth. But in fact, we are and always have been rivals, and we're rivals in a rivalry which we lost. And that obviously still rankles with us, and they quite enjoy it. But we really have to get used to this. They're not our friends. They never were, and they never will be. There's lots of reasons for this. And one of the most basic and obvious ones, if you look, is the American national anthem is an anti-British hymn. It refers to the presence of His Majesty's Navy on American soil as their foul footsteps pollution, which I think is quite rude.
It is quite rude,
And I think
yes.
if we had anything like that about them in our national anthem, they'd probably complain.
Well, I think Donald
But
Trump
we
probably
don't.
writes a tough email.
I
if we
would
had
point
that.
out that the tune of the American national anthem is an 18th century English drinking song, which it's not particularly dignified. side, and they sing it in a very odd key. But that is one part of it. The other part of it is that we did indeed. We are the only country which has ever burned Washington, D.C., which was the great Admiral Coburn in 1814. And when in the early days when we had conflicts with them, we tended to come off best. But then they got bigger and bigger, and they pushed us out of all kinds of things that we were important in. The fascinating thing, you look at English history, which when it used to be taught, there's an enormous amount of stuff going on about how in the early years of the 20th century we were really, really worried about the Germans building a bigger navy than us, which they never actually did. It never got within shouting distance. But the Americans did build a navy, first of all as big as ours and then bigger than ours, and it just doesn't get mentioned.
No.
And it was done with great deliberation. There were very nearly punch-ups between British and American admirals at the negotiations after the end of the First World War, when they started discussing limitations on the numbers of ships people could have. It very nearly came to blows. And President Woodrow Wilson, when he came over to visit us in 1918, said to his aides on the way over, if they don't knuckle under, I will build a great navy, and if they fight us, we'll smash them.
But I mean, there has been I think things changed a little bit, didn't they, in the sort of 70s, because there was a bit more, and then of course, Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan had the sort of special relationship. And didn't Nixon build the swimming pool at Chequers because one of his ambassador went there and discovered that there was no swimming pool, and they thought that was
charity.
So I mean,
charities who are down on his luck,
I think
relative, isn't it?
If you were born in the sort of if you're our generation, you tend to think you do think about the special relationship. And you do think about Reagan and Thatcher, and you do think that there was something between the two nations that was a bit of a bond. And
well,
then,
the Reagan and Thatcher thing was
I'm sure it was totally manufactured.
I never knew how much they actually did really get on. But we know that he invaded Grenada without asking her. And we also know that when the Argentines invaded the Falklands, a large part of his cabinet didn't want to help us at all. And he was pretty vague. I think a lot of this is greatly overrated. The thing that I found when I lived there was that most people didn't really care, didn't know where Britain was, didn't know much about us, and were in many cases unaware of the connection between the language they spoke being called English and England. It didn't occur to them that that's where it had come from. There is no great abiding friendship. And also America's it's an expansionist, violent country. You go to California and think, how nice, California. But until 1848, that was Mexico. And what did they do? They just took it.
They just took it.
They just
in the
took
same
it.
way
They
that Donald
walked
Trump was
in,
trying to just take Greenland.
and they took it. And they large parts of the Southwest, they just took them.
But don't you think that the I think the whole point of America is that it grows out of a rejection of Britain, doesn't it?
A lot of it is, yeah.
But a lot of people who are Americans now would have come originally from either Britain or Ireland. I mean, a lot of them were Irish. So there is quite a genuine connection there, isn't there?
It's a funny thing. You get Italian Americans, you get African Americans, you get German Americans, you probably get Hungarian Americans, you certainly get Irish Americans in a big way. But I've never come across a British American. And it's just not acknowledged as a thing. It's not a lobby. It's not a voting bloc. There are obviously people who do have British ancestries, but they're not. It's not anything like such a big thing. And why should it be?
I think also the names of the cities, because they tend to be taken from names of cities in Britain. So New York and all those places, they resonate, don't they? And the language, of course, is the same. And I think also culturally,
roughly the same.
Roughly the same. I know.
But we discussed this.
We've discussed this. But also culturally, I think there are parallels in terms of films, TV, books, that kind of stuff.
Well, only because we've pretty much absorbed their culture. And ours was very different. And I think that they're the same because we've taken on theirs. We watch their television shows. We copy their television shows, and we watch their films. And we import their Broadway dramas and so forth. So we've become more like them. They haven't become more like us. Occasionally a British-made film wins an Oscar. And there's great cry. The British are coming.
The British are taking over Hollywood.
They're not.
No,
they simply are
success. Not. So I think that.
I said we.
So what you're essentially saying is that there's absolutely no reason really why America should be on our side, other than a communality in language.
Which there will be times when our interests coincide, but often for different reasons.
What about the fact that we're both broadly speaking Judeo-Christian countries, and therefore the sort of the cultural values are parallel at least?
To a point, but then again, we're a monarchist country and they're a Republican country, and our whole attitude. American Christianity has very different shape to English Christianity, particularly, and it's a wholly different experience going to church in America to what it is going to church in Britain. Apart from anything else, there are completely different experience of going, for instance, to a black church in America. Where I was always received with immense hospitality and friendliness, but it's a completely different form of worship and a completely different, really fundamentally different attitude to life in many ways, because they are two, I'm afraid, alas, still two separate countries.
And do you think that America itself is just very fragmented anyway? So it's hard to see it as, I find it quite difficult to see America as a single entity, because I just think it's so different across its various states. And I think it doesn't really fit well together.
It used to be more of one. Up till really the 60s, they still made quite a great effort to make newcomers into Americans in a couple of generations. That was the purpose of the high schools. The high schools were not to educate. That happened at college. The high schools were to turn children into Americans, and that's what they were for. But again, that's greatly broken down since the 60s, and they aren't really trying as hard as they used to, so they're making very many different kinds of Americans. There's large parts of the country now, English is not the main language. It's predominantly Spanish, and you'll find this in the suburbs of Dallas and Texas, that it's a supermercado, not a supermarket.
Yeah, interesting. So going back to Trump, I mean, I agree with you. I don't know why anyone's surprised that he's behaving in this incredibly childish and silly way. But I suppose I am surprised that he doesn't think that he has to, that he has any special love or, relationship with the UK. Because I do think of it as being a special relationship.
He's got his mother and the
golf course.
But that's not really enough to shape national policy, is it? By the way, on the Greenland issue, I'm a bit more ambivalent. I don't think Denmark has necessarily treated Greenland very well.
No, you were saying,
in the past, and its claim to Greenland is pretty slender. But if it's just a matter of defending it, he doesn't really need to. Now, there is a fascinating precedent. I think the American Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, used to belong to Denmark, and the Americans bought them from them.
Yes,
so they must think if they can sell that, they can sell this.
Absolutely. So that was a deal. I think that was done just after the war, wasn't it?
Oh, much longer ago than that. I think the great Impressionist painter Camille Pissarro, I think his family came from those islands when they were still Danish.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
I was reading about it, and I've forgotten, of course, the dates. But
I think it's much further back in the century.
But he doesn't actually need to buy or own Greenland in order to do the things that he wants to do. I mean, if what he wants to do, if he says what he wants to do is true, which is that he wants to build this great big dome, he can do that without having to own the land.
You think so?
It's not a problem. He's allowed to put as many troops and tanks and bases as he wants there. That's the agreement that he already has.
It may be that he wants something completely different. His technique is to disrupt. And then to come in with something often completely different. Look what's happened in Venezuela. And Venezuela is still basically being run by the Chavez faction. But the CIA is in place, I think, and the arrangements for the oil are different. Apart from that, it really has been a startlingly unextensive coup. Coup, though it is.
But the thing about Trump is that I once had a friend when my children were small, you remember how toddlers behave, which is that they basically sort of behave exceedingly unreasonably,
unlike adults,
and then eventually get what they want. And he said, I'd like to write a business book called Negotiate Like a Child. And sort of children do negotiate in this way, which is that they behave in a terrible, unreasonable fashion. And then if you're an adult and you just want some peace and quiet, you give in. And this essentially seems to be, to me, Donald Trump's tactics, which is that he negotiates like a toddler. He behaves like a toddler. He throws all of his toys out of the pram. He makes all kinds of threats. And then, everyone runs around and tries to keep him happy. And then eventually he gets bored and moves on to something else.
But when the Chinese stand up to him, he gives way. It's interesting, that. And there is the acronym.
Because they're really nasty people and they don't put up with any of his rubbish.
Who is it coined the acronym TACO? Trump always chickens out. If he comes up against somebody who's harder than him, then he gives way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the
Which is, again, wise in negotiation. If you find out that somebody really, really doesn't want to give you something, then there's no point pursuing it.
Yeah. Which is why I think that European countries and Britain should be very tough on him and just say, no, this is just completely unacceptable. Well, I don't know if he wants to. I mean, the point is, it's just you can't he's going to do his trade tariffs. Well, we'll just have to do some tariffs with America.
It's a fascinating thing about the United States that it is immensely, it's sort of like some sort of deformed creature. It's immensely powerful militarily. And that military power used to reflect its economic and political power, but it doesn't anymore. No. It's got the power of force, but it doesn't have anything like the same economic or diplomatic clout that it once had. So all it's got is these whopping great aircraft carriers and bombers, which Trump delights in using. But the sort of hard power, it doesn't just consist of steel. Hard power also consists of wealth and of alliances which work for you. And they don't have that much of that anymore. It's quite interesting. I think the United States is becoming weaker in general. And I think that the end result of that will, of course, be that it can't afford to maintain a military on the scale that it has now. So it will become militarily weaker as well. I think there's a kind of semi-conscious perception of this.
Although it does have some of the world's richest men, and as a result of the sort of the .com internet boom, and they do have kind of enormous, gigantic sums of money.
The sort of profound wealth that the Americans found themselves with.
No, they don't have that anymore.
After the Roosevelt era, when they came out of the Depression and out of the Second World War, when it just was such an incredibly rich country. You look at that wonderful film, North by Northwest, which is set in New York just before the 60s began to go downhill, and look at what New York looks like then. Absolutely luxury. Everything works. It's like Japan. Everything gleams. Everything's polished. Everything's clean.
Everyone's well dressed.
Everyone's civilized. And to go to New York now and then see the opening scenes of that film, the contrast is enormous, and I think that in some way demonstrates just how far the country is
But also
fallen.
has terrible social problems. I mean, particularly with things like drugs and fentanyl and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're appalling.
You know, there are people who are just completely unable to function in America, quite a lot of people.
Take the train up from Washington, D.C. to Chicago, and a lot of the run is very beautiful, but parts of it go through the back end of West Virginia, and it really going through those small towns and villages is really very dispiriting, because they are very, they're disgracefully poor for a country with such wealth.
Yeah, and all of its manufacturing base has been hollowed out. If you look, all those
they hollowed it out, a deliberate policy, and now they want to get it back, and it's not so easy.
I mean, the other thing, of course, about Trump is that he doesn't have much longer, does he? I mean, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I don't mean that he's going to die. I just mean that he can't have another term.
Well, he thinks he can. And I always say he means it.
Do you think he's going to try and have another
I think
term?
he means it. Absolutely. I think he means it. I remember that conversation that Piers Morgan had with him, where Piers tried to say to him, no, actually, you didn't win the last election, you lost it. And Trump said, well, you're a fool. Of course I won it. He thinks, A, that he won it, and B, that he's entitled to a third term. And I think there will be a period of extreme constitutional danger as the next election approaches, while he tries to work out how to get a third term. And I don't for a moment believe that
How would he do that, though? What would the mechanisms be?
You can become, for instance, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who's one of the people in line for the presidency if the president resigns or dies, doesn't have to be elected.
So, so he could become...
I mean, I just give you a flavour of the sort of thing that constitutional lawyers are crawling over.
Right.
Also, I'm not sure whether the amendment which prevents him from being president for a third time prevents him from running, say, as J.D. Vance's vice president.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying any of these things would work. I'm saying they are being seriously examined by lawyers at the moment. And I think people should take it seriously. I think look at Greenland and see here he appears unreasonable and intransigent, truculent. Okay, sure. See if this kind of mindset is also applied to remaining in the White House for another term.
So do you think he will go ahead with these tariffs?
I have no idea. It depends how much he cares about it. Would we go ahead with challenging him on it? How much do we care about it? How much do you care about Greenland? How much does the average person in Rotherham care about Greenland?
Well, not a lot, I think.
Exactly. Would you want to be put out of work for the sake of Greenland?
No, quite.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's worth his while. It's after all, we handed over Northern Ireland to the Irish Republic under American pressure a few years ago. So why we shouldn't allow Greenland to be handed over from Denmark to the United States? I'm not absolutely sure.
Well, to be honest, we haven't seen the end of this. This is going to roll on and on and on, and every day it's going to become.
Much more fun to be had out of this.
I think dear old Keir
presidency,
Starmer is quite relieved actually because it's distracting from his dreadful record. If you
it'll come back.
It'll come back. To get in touch, you can email us alas@dailymail.co.uk. You can leave a comment on Spotify, or you could send us a voice note on the WhatsApp 07796 657 512, and please start your message with the word alas. After the break, we're going to be talking about a silly TikTok trend. Actually, it's not just TikTok, it's all of the internets. The throwback to 2016. Join us after the break.
Welcome back to another spectacular match day, but what's this? Looks like the fans are playing Coral's free reward shaker. The half and half scarfers shaking decisively for once. They bagged a super boost. Next to them, the prawn sandwich brigade. Oh, they've shaken up a free bet after that free lunch. Play Coral's free reward shaker to win guaranteed daily rewards and offers this season. Coral, we're here for it.
18 plus UK max 1 reward or offer per player per day. Reward restrictions, requirements and T's and C's apply. Gambleaware.org.
Still dreaming of snow this winter? It's not too late. Sunweb has last-minute ski deals ready to go. Lift pass included as standard, plus you can add flights, ski hire and lessons to create your perfect package. With unmissable offers across Europe's best resorts, the slopes are waiting. Book your perfect last-minute ski holiday now from just £229 per person, including lift pass at sunweb.co.uk.
It's a Sunweb holiday.
Hello, you are still listening to Alas, Vine and Hitchens. I am still Sarah Vine, and
I am still.
it remains Peter Hitchens.
Your obedient servant.
Peter, I
As
don't
you
if
know damn well I am not. As the Duke of Wellington once said.
There is a trend on social media.
Is there?
Have you spotted it? You're on social media a lot. Don't pretend that you're
I'm
not.
on one peninsula of social media, the one I call Twitter.
Anyway,
so I'm so in touch.
There's this thing. So 2026 has just gone underway, and the whole of the internet is posting throwback photographs to 2016. So there's a whole nostalgia trend to 2016, which I have to say I find slightly irksome because I think 2016 was probably the worst year of my life on account of Brexit and the fallout.
That's when it was, wasn't
yes,
it?
Yes, it was. 2016 was basically when my world fell apart, and many things happened that I have since regretted and all of that. However, I wanted to ask you, if you had to be nostalgic about one particular year, Peter, what would it be and why?
1989. For someone like me who'd been totally, furiously, deeply opposed to the Soviet system and the communist world, and had been travelling in that world for some years, observing it. I wasn't actually at the fall of the Berlin Wall. A colleague of mine manoeuvred me out of it, though I would like to point out here, I had a hotel reservation for East Berlin and a visa for that occasion, so I knew something.
So why did your colleague manoeuvre you out of it?
Because he was senior to me and he thought it would be a good story to do.
Okay.
So
who
can blame him? I won't go into that any further, but I was, even so, in Prague a short time later and in Budapest, and I ended that winter in Bucharest for the rather brutal fall of Ceausescu.
Right, yeah.
As well. So it was an extraordinary period of my life in which a lot of the things which I hated fell to the ground. Yeah. And during which I still maintained a hope that this was a sign that the future would be better. It was as a result of that I then went off to live in Moscow from 1990 to 92, which was also thrilling. But it was, in some ways, the matter was really already decided. When I went to Moscow, I knew that communism was going to fall at some point while I was there. It wasn't the thing wasn't still trembling; it had already tottered. So I think 1989. There were a number of other things.
Wasn't that Tiananmen Square as well? Or have I got that?
I think that was a little later, if you push me. But I wasn't as concerned about China. Since I went for the first time really to Eastern Europe in 77, 78.
So what, you would have been 25 or something?
26, yeah. So I'd developed an enormous fascination for it, and also a lot of it's very beautiful. The first time I went to Prague, nobody went there, and it was astounding. So so I can measure it all from there. This was a whole period of my life which had reached its apogee, and the exhilaration of standing in the crowds in Prague, a frozen afternoon as the old horrible regime fell. It was also the first time I became very briefly a national hero, but only in Czechoslovakia, because I'd been at a press conference and I'd said to the Deputy General Secretary of the Communist Party, well, you've been sitting here since 1948 making people's lives a misery. Why keep us waiting any longer? And someone had translated this from English into Czech, and the following day I was walking through the old town square in Prague, and people kept coming up to me and shaking me by the hand.
Oh, wow.
This is nice.
This is what it's like.
This is
to
nice.
Be me.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a local celebrity.
But it was a complete surprise. I had no idea that so many people watched this event.
Yeah. Well, I don't really. I mean, 89. I was 21 or something. Yes, I didn't quite understand the importance of that year.
Well, I did, and the thing was that almost everything since then has been disappointment from the political and global. I mean, lots of other things. I'm not talking about my private life, but in terms of the world, that was
so that promise hasn't really been realised.
Absolutely, not just unfulfilled, but in many ways reversed.
And what do you think? Why do you think it went so wrong? Why do you think it didn't fulfil its promise?
Well, my theories, I think you know that there were many people in the West who could not see that it would be a good thing to help Russia recover and become again, as it has, for instance, with Poland, a prosperous and happy country. They were more concerned to keep Russia out of things, and they did so. And I think that was a very fundamental mistake. And we will pay for it forever.
Yeah. So
Russia could have been turned not into some kind of paradise democracy, but into definitely a civilized and probably law-governed country if we tried to do that. But we weren't interested, and what we've got now is largely the results of that. I think Western policy was just wrong.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you had a year, if you could choose any year to be nostalgic about, what it would be and why. You can email us, alas@dailymail.co.uk, or you can leave a message on Spotify. Sorry, I slightly hesitated there because I keep getting the email just wrong.
Well, what about you?
Me?
Yeah, what's your year? What's your year?
Question. I think probably 2012.
What happened?
It's not nearly as profound as your reason, Peter, obviously, but my children...
It's probably less boring.
My children were at a very sweet age, and it was the Olympics, and the Cameron government had sort of only just got in, and things were still quite positive, and it felt like the country was relatively stable, relatively prosperous, heading relatively in the right direction, and I was quite happy in my personal life, and like I said, my children were adorable. So that would be my year, I think. Yeah. I think that was also the year I got Mars, the dog, who I was very fond of. So that
sounds like a good year.
It's quite domestic reason, not a macro reason.
Well, that's all right. I mean, why shouldn't it be?
Yes.
Domestic things ultimately more important than global matters. But rather like you,
it was a year when everything sort of seemed possible and everything seemed to be going in the right direction. And, I felt very optimistic about life.
Did you read The Go-Between?
Yes.
Yes. It's 1900 and it's the beginning of a new century, and they all think everything's going to be better and better.
Yes, I know. Anyway, should we do some letters? We have got letters. We have got letters. Alas, dear Sarah and Peter.
Should we just call ourselves Alas?
Sorry, I just call ourselves Alas. I'm a regular listener from Brisbane, Australia, and I'm so grateful to have found your podcast. And we are grateful to have found you. If I might ask a question and make a suggestion, can you recommend an economics book, this is not going to be my answer, on nation building, or that you think provides a perspective on economics that actually works? As an Australian, our economy is dreadfully unbalanced, with miners at one end and banks at the others, with very little in between. My suggestion is that, as a listener, I want to hear what you both would do in a respective politician's place, not just a commentary on what they are doing wrong. Kind regards, Jared Snow.
Oh gosh, no. The only recent book on economics I recommend was I'm trying to remember the names of the authors. It's called Going South, which is a very apt description of the state of the British economy, on what they'd got wrong. And I'm sort of reading through another one, the name of which I've also forgotten, being unprepared for this, which is about the American takeover of the British economy, which is huge. I think the Australian problem is considerable in that it is China's quarry. It's a fantastic extractive place. You can dig practically anything out of it and sell it, but it's never made much. But then again, what are you going to do? How could you turn Australia into a productive economy? Generally, that means lower wages than the ones people
and
are now
lots of
used
sort
to.
of
It's very
lots
difficult.
Of tax breaks and opportunities.
I'd be very glad you've got the resources that other people want. And also, the other thing is, if you are thinking of manufacturing, what age are you hoping to sell this stuff in? Whatever people are buying now will not be what they're buying in 20 years' time. Planning economies is very difficult. The example two examples I rather liked were West Germany between 45 and 89 and France, the 30 glorious years, the Trente Glorieuses, mainly under de Gaulle, where both of them managed to make their people pretty prosperous and create quite strong economies. But both of them have now gone down the plumbing. So what looked good 30, 40, 50 years ago now doesn't look so good. So I'm afraid I'm absolutely the wrong person to ask. You might as well ask me about your teeth, which I'm sure are terrific.
Teeth are terrific. I mean, I'm sorry, Jerry, we're a bit useless, but I mean, personally, I think that we're in the middle of a sort of massive convulsion, aren't we? We're in the middle of a massive a technical revolution that is going to change everything, and AI.
Well, there is that too, yes.
So it's
and
very
the
difficult.
great difficulty, I think, work is good for people. You see,
Yeah, I
the
agree.
great difficulty is
Humans need purpose.
is maintaining work for people to do. Because I think if this supposed utopia where nobody has to go to work,
no one's got a plan for
they're all
it.
paid a minimum payment.
Yeah,
It sounds to me like a complete disaster.
horrendous. But no one has a plan for it. No one is thinking about it. Everyone keeps saying, oh, AI can do this, AI can do that. The truth is, the one thing it will eventually do is it will render us all redundant. And then what's going to happen? And as you say, no one has a plan. What are you going to have? What's going to be the minimum wage? What are you going to pay people? What are they going to do all day? I mean, I don't know what I would do if I didn't work.
Some kind of H.G.
I mean, sometimes I have days off and I sit there
future.
sort of staring into space thinking, what is my purpose?
Do you?
Well, I'm so accustomed to working. I'd find it really difficult if I didn't have a job or couldn't work. I would be really very bored.
Yep.
I mean, there's only so many books you can read and only so many shows.
Oh,
you
sure.
can
And
watch.
books are no fun if you haven't
No.
got anything else to do but
No.
read.
I mean, one of the reasons I have dogs is because they keep me busy when I'm not working.
Yeah, but then we can't just issue everyone with a dog, can we?
Well, you could. I mean, I think the world would be a better place to
A
do
lot
that.
of people are not fit to be issued with dogs anyway. So
Dear Miss Vine, your humorously written account of your nightmare visit to Spain will have struck a chord with fellow sufferers, especially those of my age, 90th year, who have known previously a way of life involving civility and normality. Regarding AI, its beeping, flashing and instructing exclusion in new appliances is clearly considered part of the necessary upgrading needed to aid its assumed half-witted users. Worse still is the emerging of AI with social media. Surely this can only further assist one of the many existing means by which humanity is hurtling towards self-destruction. I agree. Sadly, the younger generation who will mostly suffer the consequences, i.e. more brain disturbance and isolation, seem to be unaware or dismissive of this. So be it. The voice of gloom, doom or reality, maybe all three, but having witnessed the ever-accelerating lifestyle changes since World War II, I can see little light as the fast-approaching end of the tunnel, at the fast-approaching end of the tunnel. I think this is quite... I don't know if you read that piece that I wrote.
did.
So cross. I'm given the hire car.
shouted at by
Shouted at by this car endlessly whenever I did. I just would not stop shouting at me.
I was once told that the best way to cope with these things is that usually they have a language setting and you can actually get English spoken in a Hungarian accent. And if you do it in that setting, you don't no longer have to take seriously as what you are doing is wrong.
I have my own car.
That's the next junction.
My actual own car. That
Turn left, I said.
My own car is a very old 2007 car for the precise reason that it doesn't do any of these things. There is no parking assist. It does not shout at me if I go in the... It is absolutely lo-fi, purely analogue
But
car.
is your car in fact covered in parking dents?
Yes, it is, but not. I didn't put them there. I'm actually quite good at parking, but it also doesn't have a cup holder, which my children find extraordinary.
How can anyone?
Because what kind of
When
savagery?
the world ever exists with no cup?
But it has an ashtray.
There is that's probably a legal requirement. Apparently, it is on airplanes, but from some ancient regulation that no one's ever been able to repeal. But there's the opposite problem, beautifully summed up This appeared on Twitter the other day, and I can't fully quote from it because it's so profane. A couple of pages of cartoon in the magazine Viz, in which a huge monster appears in the New York harbor and starts eating the skyscrapers, and word comes to the White House. And so it is, the president must know about this, and they rush in to try and turn the television on for the president, and they can't. Because it's impossible to. It's like my television. You switch it and says FLSM 2 or FLSM 1, and then it offers you subscriptions to
and then asks to be upgraded.
40 plus MILFs, and then while you're pressing the button to try and get the news, you actually take out the subscription by accident. It's very funny, and it's absolutely true. So many of these things, while the machines tell you what to do, they won't let you tell them what to do.
No, absolutely not.
So in the end, I can't. This has been very good for me. I don't watch much television, but now, unless I've got assistants handy, I can't watch it at all because I simply cannot switch it on.
No, absolutely not. And even if you do switch it on, it keeps asking me. My television is absolutely obsessed with being upgraded.
Yes.
And I don't want to upgrade you. You're fine. You work perfectly okay. I do not want an upgrade.
No, they want to downgrade you. That's
Exactly.
what they're trying to do.
My fridge also drives me around the bend because whenever I do a shop and I open the fridge door in order to put the food in, after about 10 seconds it starts shouting at me because the door is open. And I just like
what does it say?
Well, no, it just beeps.
It hasn't actually verbalised it.
I'd like a button that I can press that explains to this idiotic piece of machinery that I am in fact putting food in it so that it can refrigerate it, which is after all its entire function in life.
I wonder whether the people of Australia might start manufacturing goods.
Yes,
which
don't beep
and don't tell you what to do, and televisions you can turn on. Yeah. That might be their future.
I think that is the future. I was on the TV the other day with this morning, in fact, with Kate Garraway.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to turn it on.
No, that's
fine.
So someone on the internet has invented this is really scary. So this is AI at its worst. Somebody on the internet has basically invented a boyfriend for her. So she has this AI boyfriend, which has nothing to do with her. Somebody has basically decided that Kate Garraway should have this AI boyfriend. And there's lots of AI-generated nonsense about her and this bloke and, that they've been together for however long. And there's all... that is really intrusive.
It is, yes.
It's sort of illegal. And then there's all this row about Grok undressing people.
Well, it is sort of stalking, isn't it?
It is. It is.
But I find AI, when I ask it things, it's pathetically anxious to please me. It once invented an entire poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson, which he never wrote.
Just to get your attention?
No, because I was trying to trace a quotation. And it said this is a poem by Tennyson from 1844, and it then named.
You said no, it's not.
Well, I knew that no such poem
that's
existed.
The thing.
It wasn't
only
there.
You would know that.
That's the thing. A lot of people wouldn't know.
They just take it as
known no better. But this very frequently happens in my interactions with it. It tells me things which I know aren't right, and I come back to it and say, "Hang on,
perhaps you could start a public service by basically posting these things on the internet." These moments when you realise that the falseness of AI.
I'm far too busy trying to get the television on. I haven't time for that.
Anyway, what I would really like is I'd really like somebody to start a car rental company that only rents cars built before 2007.
There used to be, certainly in the United States, there used to be a company called Rent a Wreck.
Okay, brilliant. Rent a wreck.
And that's you got what you expected. I remember that man Brooks.
That's a great genius idea.
What was his first name? The London estate agent of the 60s who advertised flats as mildewed, filthy,
what was he called?
sagging. He did exist. He used to advertise in the old Evening Standard and Roy Brooks, I think. And you'd think it would take off. Yeah. But where is he now?
There was a book of it. Wasn't there a book made of it, and it was called Brothel in Pimlico?
Well, if there was, I'm afraid it...
I think there's a book called Brothel in Pimlico, which is a series of all these listings of terrible houses. And one of them is Brothel in Pimlico. Sitting tenants. Okay.
Rent a wreck. That's what Rent a wreck.
Rent a wreck.
Also, Rent a wreck fridge. You want.
Yes, that's what I went.
Fridge. We just keep your food cold. That's all we do.
That's all you need to do. Nothing else. Alas, I listened with a smile to hear Peter Hitchens talk about rolling resistance. Back in the early 90s, when I was about 8 or 9, we went on a school trip to the Blenarvan Ironworks Museum in Wales. We were given a presentation. I think I've said that wrong, and our producer who is Welsh is furious with me because I'm also supposed to be Welsh and I can't get it right. We were given a presentation and demonstration on coal transportation by an old man who clearly had not got over the fact that canals had been replaced by railways. He was of the opinion canal barges were superior to steam engines for moving coal because for energy to move them was much less than a steam engine, and he demonstrated this with a model boat in a trough of water and a model railway engine on track. Are you sure this person wasn't Peter? Both were each attached to a string and a basket dangling off the edge of the table. The model boats needed only the weight of a single metal washer to cause movement, whereas the model engine required several steel washers to provide enough force to move. In last week's episode, Hitchens declared you'd have to be mad to waste enormous amounts of energy on rolling resistance. On this basis, does Hitchens agree with the old man in the museum that canals are more sensible than trains?
Well,
This is from Ian Gimlet in Cardiff.
Canals are lovely.
Has a very
Canals
dark
are
sense of
lovely,
humour.
and I sometimes think that one day I will go off the grid and live in a canal boat. But
I've always had a fantasy about living in a canal boat.
There are several problems about that, which I couldn't discuss. But no, leaving all that aside, there are problems with building canals in our landscape.
Right.
You do need particular conditions in which you have to get the water to flow, take up a lot of space. If you want to carry great big bulk, you need huge canals, which the French, for instance, have, but don't really fit in our landscape. And the other thing is the trade-off is between rolling resistance and friction and all the rest of it, is the more rolling resistance you have, the more speed you can get, because the more friction you have. Trains can go faster than...
Yes, but canals are not known for their...
barges. So
no.
The reason why railways elbowed canals to one side was partly because the canals would pretty much reach their limit of being built, and secondly because railways are so much faster. Even roads are faster than canals. But that's
not as romantic, though.
I think that's railways are fantastically romantic.
Yes, I mean they are also romantic.
If you put a railway, if you put a railway in the middle of a really, really beautiful, unspoiled landscape, it won't wreck it.
No,
it's an extraordinary thing. If you put a railway in a medieval landscape, it wouldn't wreck it. If you put a motorway in the same landscape, it would destroy it.
Yes.
Don't ask me why, but it's true.
As you can tell if you drive past Stonehenge on the A303.
Haven't they built that tunnel yet?
No, they haven't done the tunnel because they can't do the tunnel because there's too many things that can't be dug up for the tunnel.
Well, no, the railway doesn't go anywhere near Stonehenge, I don't think. Shockingly. They probably did, and they pulled it up because it didn't pay.
I like houses that are built at the end of that have gardens that go onto railways because I like the sound of trains at night.
Yes.
It's very relaxing. Anyway, thank you for listening. I think that's all we've got time for. Don't forget to check out this week's reading watch list and share the books, TV and films you think we might want to read or watch. And for that or anything else, you can email alas@dailymail.co.uk. You can leave a comment on Spotify or even send us a voice note on WhatsApp 077 96 657 512 and start your message with the word alas. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to another spectacular match day, but what's this? Looks like the fans are playing Coral's free reward shaker. The half and half scarfers shaking decisively for once. They bagged a super boost. Next to them, the Prawn Sandwich Brigade. Oh, they've shaken up a free bet after that free lunch. Play Coral's free reward shaker to win guaranteed daily rewards and offers this season. Coral, we're here for it.
18 plus UK max one rewarder offer per player per day. Reward restrictions, requirements and T's and C's apply. Gambleaware.org.
Still dreaming of snow this winter? It's not too late. Sunweb has last-minute ski deals ready to go. Lift Pass included as standard, plus you can add flights, ski hire and lessons to create your perfect package. With unmissable offers across Europe's best resorts, the slopes are waiting. Book your perfect last-minute ski holiday now from just £229 per person, including Lift Pass at sunweb.co.uk.
It's a Sunweb holiday.
You save the last bite of toast for them. You let them win at tug-of-war, even though they cheat. That's what you do when you've got a tellmate. You plan your whole weekend round them. You chat to them like they're your best pal and swear they give you attitude back. Because that's what you do when you got a tellmate. And yeah, you got me insured. Because they're not just a pet, they're your tellmate. Many pets. Pet insurance for life with your tellmates. Jointly underwritten by Wacom SA and Score UK Company Limited. Visit manypets.com for terms and conditions.